Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Fantasy Football Week 7 running back start or sits. I'm going to be going over my 4 starts and my 4 sits at the running back position as we enter Week 7 of the regular season. Now, following that, I'm going to talk about my 1 through 36 running back rankings as I give you guys a better idea of how I think Week 7 is going to play out when it comes to the running back position. I'm also going to be going over running back news, injury news, everything up to date until today, October 16th, the Tuesday prior to that Thursday night game. So everything we're going to be going over is up to as of right now. That's why you see Le'Veon Bell on the screen. I got a couple remarks, couple notes on him. But other than that, before we begin, I just want to thank everybody who has subscribed. We're almost at 3,000. Probably by the time I release this or soon after, I will have 3,000 subscribers. So I want to go ahead and, in advance, thank all of you for going and supporting my channel. I appreciate it a lot, guys, and it's incredible. So without further ado, let's get right into the Week 7 running back start and sits. Hey, everybody. How's it going? All right. Whew. It's Tuesday. We're here, and we've got Tarik Cohen, and I gotta get myself comfortable. Goodness. Yep. The jacket is back. Oh, my. Anyway, Tarik Cohen and Clement this week. Now, why specifically these people? Now, let me give you a better idea of how I approach my start and sits. I'm not going to say start Todd Gurley, start Saquon Barkley. Obviously, for obvious reasons, those are obvious starts, right? You're going to start those players, whether I tell you not to or that you should. Those are automatic plays. I go over guys that I think could have a better week than projected, right? I'm going to be talking about Tarik Cohen and Clement because I think, yes, they might be projected somewhere around 9 to 11 points in half-point PPR scoring, but I think they can outperform their projections this coming week. That's why I have them as starts of the week. So for those of you who think, okay, he had this guy as a start of the week, yet they're way lower ranked, what's that about? The whole concept behind this, from my perspective, is I want to talk about players that I think can outperform their projections. That is why I think, and I'm suggesting that you start them. Anyway, so that's the whole deal. Let's get into it. We have Tarik Cohen and Clement, as I mentioned before. Let's just talk about Tarik Cohen, right out the gate. I think this week, against the New England Patriots, Tarik Cohen has a great opportunity to just be fantasy relevant and a monster. In the last 2 games that he's played, he's had a total of 17 targets from Mitchell Trubisky, which is absolutely ridiculous. In PPR and half-point PPR scoring leagues, Tarik Cohen, just because of his receptions, he's had 7 receptions each of the last 2 games that he's played. And over, are you ready for the statistics? 210 receiving yards. Over 210 receiving yards in the last 2 weeks. You might be thinking, is this Julio Jones? No. This is Tarik Cohen catching the ball out of the backfield and making plays with his legs. And on top of that, in the last 2 weeks, he's had 18 rushing attempts, which is pretty good, right? If you split that in half, bada boom, that's 9 attempts just on the ground, right? That's not even counting the 7 receptions a game that he's gotten, right? He's getting a large volume. He's out-touching Jordan Howard. And the offense is looking good with Tarik Cohen as one of their main producers. Going forward, I'm sure Matt Nagy is going to continue to use Jordan Howard. But Tarik Cohen is just looking so damn good right now. Being able to just make plays with his feet. You just have to throw him the ball out of the backfield. The guy's going to find himself a first down. He's James White and Alvin Kamara, just a little bit shorter and a tad bit faster. As of right now, going against the New England Patriots, a team that has struggled against anybody defensively, I think Tarik Cohen is going to have a really good week. This man, just in the passing game, is going to be great. Adding on top of it the potential that he can have with a couple carries on the ground, I like him this week and I like him going forward. That's why he's one of my starts of the week. Tarik Cohen, especially in PPR, guys, understand he is just extremely valuable. Now, if you don't play in a PPR, I would still advise playing him, but as a flex position, unless you're struggling because of the bye week. As we all know, the bye weeks consist of the Packers, the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Seahawks this week. So if, in fact, you are struggling, one of my teams, I had Seahawks and I had Steelers. And by all means, I'm pretty devastated right now. I'm trying to pick up guys off the waiver. So if you are struggling, you could definitely start him in a standard league. I don't think that his talent is limited to a PPR, but I think with a PPR, he's just that much more valuable and that much more reliable going forward. So that's just my thoughts on Tarik Cohen. Now, Corey Clement. Now, why would I think that Corey Clement between the two running backs is going to produce? Was it because of last week's performance, Andrew? Is that why you've tipped the scales towards Clement now, even though you were saying Smallwood's going to have a great opportunity? I think specifically both of them are going to have their opportunities. I don't think they're going to, post numbers where it's Corey Clement with 20 touches and Wendell Smallwood with like 3 or 4. I don't think the specific offense of the Eagles is going to tip that way. I think Corey Clement, though, with his ability to play in the passing game, right, just like Tarik Cohen, going against the Panthers of Carolina this week, here's the thing. That defense, they don't give up a lot of points on the ground. That front seven with Thomas Davis coming back at linebacker, Luke Kuechly, Shaq Thompson, Kawan Short on the interior, Julius Pepper somehow still there. They don't give up a lot of yards up front. And the way I see it, this coming week, the Eagles are going to struggle running the ball up front. I know they have a very good offensive line. Jason Peters, the left tackle, was injured this past week. I think he tore his bicep, but it said he intends to continue to play. He struggled against Olivier Vernon last week, but that's a different conversation on its own. I think the Eagles are going to be forced to pass the ball, which is a comfort zone for them, especially with Carson Wentz, feeling himself more and more as the weeks go by. But I think Corey Clement is going to be asked to do more this coming week. Now that he's clear of his injury, we know that Corey Clement, with a full workload, is capable of being extremely valuable in fantasy. So far this season, this guy he's been good, right? Obviously battling with injury. J.J. took a couple games worth of relevancy for him, but this week against a tough defensive front, I think using the passing game and using Corey Clement is going to be the way the Eagles approach it. So therefore, I am saying he's one of my starts of the week. All right, let's move on to the next and the last two starts of the week. Okay, now bear with me, people. We have LeSean McCoy and we have Phillip Lindsay. Now, why exactly do I think these two can be great? Now, a little bit of injury information. According to my sleeper app, the source says that Josh Allen, quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, has torn his UCL in his elbow. So basically, he has to have a Tommy John surgery, which is going to end the rest of his season and could potentially hold him out until, the end of 2019? That's what the report said. I don't know if it's that crazy, but as of right now, Josh Allen is done for the season from what I'm aware of, because this, there's no way of continuing to play with this injury on his throwing arm. So that's what they've, gone and done. So now that Nathan Peterman is going to be the quarterback, I think that the fact of the matter is they're going to want to keep the ball out of Nathan Peterman's hands as much as they possibly can going forward. He is a turnover machine. I don't see the Bills going out and trying to sign a new quarterback in order to start or trade for a new one. They're going to go with Nathan Peterman. That's not a great thing, right? Especially for pieces within this Bills team. But to be honest, the other fantasy pieces on this Bills team, they've never been relevant, especially this season. Kelvin Benjamin, no. Zay Jones, you can't depend on it. Charles Clay, no. But LeSean McCoy, as of late, has been decent. The last 2 weeks, 85 rushing yards, 73 rushing yards. Also followed that with a couple receptions for, 20 rushing yards a game. Receiving yards a game, excuse me. So he's almost, he's around that 10-point fantasy week kind of thing in half-point PPR. Going forward, I think against this juicy matchup of the Indianapolis Colts, I don't think that Nathan Peterman is going to be that bad to where this offense is completely inept, they're going to be able to move the ball. They're going to move the ball through LeSean McCoy. I think with McCoy healthy and ready to go, I think he has a very good opportunity this week. I wouldn't sleep on him. This is a guy that you can put in at your flex, and he's going to be able to produce because he is literally the only weapon on this offense. And on a team that, honestly, they're not that bad. A couple weeks back, you could have convinced me they were going to go 0-16, but my God, this defense is actually legit, and they'll make you pay if you mess around too much. So this coming week, hopefully with some good field position, LeSean McCoy finds his first touchdown of the season. But as of right now, I think he can still do, pretty decent. 10 fantasy points is a, acceptable outcome for this coming week. That's what I see happening, and that is why he is a start of the week. Guys, don't be surprised if he, outplays his projection. All right, Phillip Lindsay, the last running back I want to talk about. This past week, the Broncos didn't really run the ball. They had their little three-headed monster, running back by committee, as you might call it, with Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman, and Devontae Booker. I don't even know how Booker gets touches or snaps, but he does. Royce Freeman, who was the favorite coming into training camp, played all 4 preseason games and scored in every game. He was supposed to be the savior of this backfield, ended up doing nothing and has done nothing thus far. Phillip Lindsay is the favorite out of this backfield, especially in the passing game this past week. 6 receptions, 48 yards, which pretty much saved his week for those of you who played him. This coming week, they play against the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. I wanted to mention this really quickly because the Cardinals have given up so many points on the ground. If I'm not mistaken, let's pull up the statistic. Yes, the Arizona Cardinals have given up the second most fantasy points to the running back position thus far this season. I mean, they give up points in bunches. They let Latavius Murray run for 155 yards last week. I mean, goodness, guys. This is a very juicy matchup. Both teams don't have great run defenses, right? We know the Broncos, the last 2 weeks, 200-yard rushers, right? The week prior, Kareem Hunt ripped for 150. And on the other side, we have over here the Cardinals, who have given up 155 this past week, 100 yards to the combination of Breida and Morris and Juszczyk, 100 yards to Mike Davis the week prior to that. I mean, there's a lot of points to be had, especially coming out of the run game. I think Phillip Lindsay, being that number 1 running back of this team, is going to have his, chances. And being a Thursday night game, I think you can trust him to be able to have some fantasy value. That's why he's one of my starts of the week. And that's Phillip Lindsay. So let's go to my sits of the week going into week 7 of the fantasy season. Okay, we got Javorius Allen and we have Isaiah Crowell. Now, why exactly do I have these two? Well, the fact of the matter is they've both been extremely inconsistent thus far this season. Javorius Allen started off with those 3 double-digit fantasy scoring weeks in half-point PPR in which he scored like 13, 12, 10. And by all means, everybody was picking him up and ready to start him. They were like, okay, Alex Collins is done. We don't have to worry about this. I just picked up a starting running back off the waivers. I'm great. Well, ever since then, Javorius Allen just hasn't been good, to be honest. Obviously, the game scripts in some of these matchups, especially, a couple weeks back against the Cleveland Browns, a 9-6 game in Cleveland. Nobody was fantasy relevant even in that game. This past week against the Titans didn't do well because, honestly, they were just trying to run the clock out. But Javorius Allen didn't really get much of that production. It was Alex Collins with 2 rushing touchdowns that basically set up the entire offense of the Ravens. This coming week, playing against the New Orleans Saints, I don't see Javorius Allen continuing to find success. I think because of his inconsistency as of late, it would probably be more advantageous for you to perhaps put him on your bench this coming week. I understand many of you are struggling with injuries, and I'll get into injuries, and specific players being bums and not playing or not being consistent, or you have a bye week this coming week. But as of right now, Javorius Allen, in my opinion, should not be playing this week, should not start on your roster. I think there are better options, and when I go through my rankings, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The second player I wanted to talk about when it comes to sits this week, it's another inconsistent POS. We have here Isaiah Crowell, a guy that, the week prior, right? In week 5, this dude ran for 200 yards on the Denver defense. Understand, okay. The Denver defense, they can't stop a soul. Okay, great. But you go and you play against the Indianapolis Colts and you post numbers like this. Let me go ahead and read these. 13 carries for 40 yards. Like, what is that? That's just pure inconsistency. This guy, he's good every other week. This is the Amari Cooper effect, pretty much, right? 22 points in week 1, follows it with a 5-point performance in week 2. Then has an 18-point performance in week 3, follows it with 0.8 points in week 4. Then he follows that with a 29.6-point performance, then follows it with a 6-point performance. Goodness. All signs point to, oh my God, he's going to have a fantastic week. It's the every other effect. It's going to happen. They play against the Minnesota defense. I don't see him doing well. When this offense is behind because they cannot score against his defense, it is going to force them to pass the ball. That is when Bilal Powell will come in and take production away from Isaiah Crowell. I do not see him having a good week. Therefore, I think you should sit him. I understand last week, coming off that 200-yard performance, it would have been stupid for many of us not to put him into our starting lineup just to give it a shot. But he's way too inconsistent for us to trust as of right now. Therefore, we are going to have to sit him, especially because he's not the only running back in this backfield. Bilal Powell is taking away carries. He's taking away attempts in the passing game, which I expected fully to happen this year. So I'm just not buying into Isaiah Crowell as of right now, and especially for week 7 of the regular season. Therefore, he's one of my sits. Now, the next two guys I wanted to talk about, okay? These guys aren't technically sits, but I thought I'd just bring them up right here, right now. These are two guys you can absolutely drop. If you haven't heard the news, Devonta Freeman is now on the IR. He's going to the injured reserve because he's having surgery on his groin. Honestly, it's kind of pissing me off. All right. First of all, they come out and they say, Devonta Freeman, his knee hurts. Blah, blah, blah. He'll be out for a couple weeks. Great, thanks. Okay. Then they follow it up saying he has a bone bruise. That is why he's going to be out. Then they follow it up with, dude's going to have surgery on his groin. Okay, so you're telling me this whole time, this dude's been fighting 4 different injuries and that's why he hasn't played, but there's been no transparency within the organization, anybody? I understand. They don't have to, give us this information. But as a fantasy owner, it pisses me off a little bit because I'm sitting here right now and I'm thinking, okay, well, he's got to go sit on, my bench. Nope, I got to drop him now. Yes, I might have an IR spot for him, but I'm not going to wait 8 weeks for this guy to come back. I don't even know if I'll be in the playoffs and in the championship game in 8 weeks because this guy I drafted in the 3rd round is screwed me over, right? So as of right now, I'm just upset with it. If you haven't heard, drop your Devonta Freemans. It's over. As I mentioned yesterday in the waiver wire pickups, obviously for those of you who own Tevin Coleman, thumbs up, congratulations. And also Ito Smith owners, or guys that are going to try to pick up Ito Smith this week, it would be a pretty good idea to go ahead and get him because this backfield has become a 2-headed monster as of right now, and we're just going to have to wait and see how this develops. Perhaps there is an opportunity for Ito Smith to get more carries, or perhaps Tevin Coleman is just going to fully dominate this backfield going forward. But either way, Devonta Freeman, he's done. Drop him off your lineups, and until next year, Devonta, we'll talk about you in the offseason, but until next time, you're done. All right, the next guy I wanted to talk about, Alfred Morris. Now, I mentioned him saying if Matt Breida doesn't play on Monday, that last night's game was pretty spicy to say the least. Matt Breida did play yesterday somehow, and he was hobbling the entire time. As a Matt Breida owner, it does not help me at all with any sort of confidence in trusting in Matt Breida. When literally he'll run the ball. I'm like, oh, great, look at that. 12-yard run. Hobbles to the sideline. Comes back out. 12-yard run. Hobbles to the sideline. Comes back in. Rushes for a touchdown. Hobbles to the sideline. It's like, give me a break, dude. You're giving me heart attacks every other play. I'm thinking you're out for the season every single. Anyway. We're talking about Alfred Morris, though. A guy that we would have thought could have had some production last night. For those of you who held out and played him, this is a very unfortunate situation. He played. He was available. He was active. He played one snap in the third quarter in which he had a run. I think he got called back, and then his night was over. He didn't play again. They had Mustard. Let me find Mustard. Mustard. No. Hold on, wait. Let me find this guy's name. I don't know where they got this kid from, but he looked good. When it comes to waiver wire pickups this week, guys, if you have an available, claim to be made, Mustard. Okay, Rasheem Mustard, okay, had 12 carries for 87 yards last night. Looked pretty good. Okay, I understand the Packers' defense isn't amazing, but he looked good. The combination of him and Breida are going to continue. Breida's going to get those goal line carries, but this guy, I wouldn't mind picking him up considering how Breida is hobbling to the sideline every weekend. So why not pick him up this week? Rasheem Mustard, I don't know. Either way, that's just the information. These aren't really sits, but these are just guys that I wanted to mention, get the information out. And that's basically it. So let's get into our rankings for week 7 of the fantasy season. Goodness gracious. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, guys. I'm not going to go into it too much because, honestly, I don't really have to, at least for these top guys. Number 1, we have Todd Gurley playing against, okay, again, let me mention, there is no Steelers, there is no Seahawks, there is no Packers, and there is no Raiders this week. So if you have just realized that, your fantasy lineup is burning and, everybody, you have just a bunch of holes. I have rosters that just have gaping holes. I'm missing 3 wide receivers, and I'm missing a kicker and a defense this week. And I'm like, So I got a lot of work to do, right? And especially when my bench is all injured and I have to drop and I have to keep Cooper Kupp sitting on my Cooper. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about these running backs, shall we? We have Todd Gurley, number 1, playing against the 49ers this week. I mean, why wouldn't Todd Gurley be number 1, right? The guy scores multiple touchdowns a game. The guy had a 200-yard rushing game last week. I think going forward, especially in such a good matchup against the 49ers, why not? He's number 1. Going forward, he was the number 1 overall pick in many of your leagues if you ended up drafting Le'Veon Bell. I'm sorry to hear about that. But that's basically it. Le'Veon. But anyway, Todd Gurley, number 1. I think, as I mentioned yesterday, Todd Gurley's, fantasy relevance is hurting Jared Goff. I'll get into that more as I get to the quarterback rankings later on today. But as of right now, with the absence of Cooper Kupp, this is just going to give more opportunity for Todd Gurley in the passing game. I don't know if guys like Josh Reynolds or, I don't see Woods getting that many more receptions because of the absence of Cooper Kupp in this next couple weeks. But I think Todd Gurley out of the passing game might get a little bit of a uptick going forward. But either way, he's my number 1. He's the best running back in the NFL, and he's the best fantasy player in the entire landscape. Number 2, we have Saquon Barkley this week playing against the Falcons. You know how them Falcons work. Just let's put this in perspective. All right. Payton Barber, prior to this past week, had 17.1 fantasy points in the first 4 weeks of the season, okay? In the 4 games that he played. Now, he played against the Falcons, and he scored 18 points. So you're telling me in 1 week against the Falcons, this dude outscored his entire season thus far. Nothing else needs to be said. Saquon Barkley's coming off a 200-yard week, 100 plus rushing yards, almost 100 receiving yards, a touchdown. He's unstoppable. And honestly, this Falcons defense, they're going to struggle. They're way too banged up to stop this man. He's just going to run through them. He's my number 2 this week. Number 3, we have Melvin Gordon. He had 3 rushing touchdowns this past week. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that again. But honestly, when they get down to that red zone, Phillip Rivers doesn't even look to pass anymore. They're just blowing out teams with running the ball down their throats. They're playing against the Tennessee Titans this week, which, we know how bad the Tennessee Titans are. So I don't think that the Chargers are going to be able to get stopped this coming week. They're going to work down the field with pretty efficient ease, I guess you could say. I don't know what I just said, but either way, Melvin Gordon is number 3. Number 4, we have Kareem Hunt playing against the Cincinnati Bengals, who James Conner just ripped up apart. I don't know. I think the way I see it, Kareem Hunt, been consistent. He's getting ample opportunity. We want consistency. We want opportunity. And he's, one of the best running backs in the NFL on top of it. He's going against a defense that's given up a lot of points to the running back position as of late. Last week to James Conner, as I mentioned, and the week before to Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake. I think Kareem Hunt is going to have himself another good week. He's my number 4. Number 5, we have Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, he ran 100 yards down the Jaguars' throats, but honestly, the Cowboys could have done anything, and they would have been successful in it on Sunday against the Jaguars. This coming week, they play against the Redskins. I think the Redskins, they have a pretty low-key good defense, but I'm not sure if it's going to be able to stop Ezekiel Elliott because thus far this season, nobody's really been able to stop him fully. He's not going to show up and only have 30 rushing yards. He's been the number one option. Him getting 20-plus carries now as we continue throughout the season, that's exactly what I want to see. I want to see him touch the ball 25 to 27 times a game easily, whether it's on the ground or in the passing game. For sure, my number 5 this week, that's Ezekiel Elliott. Should be good, all things considered. And the offensive line, even without Travis Frederick, it's been good. I understand how valuable Travis Frederick is, especially being a Pro Bowl offensive lineman and the center, the leader of that offense. But they've been pretty good without him. Some guys have stepped up and they've been pretty decent. So let's move on. Let's go to number 6, David Johnson. So here we go. David Johnson, it's your time this week. You have the opportunity. You play against the Denver defense that has given up 200 rushing yards in the last 2 weeks. Now, I don't see you rushing for 200 rushing yards, but you should have a pretty good week. That is why you're at number 6. Whether you run the ball or catch it out of the backfield, you should be pretty relevant. This defense of the good old Denver Broncos has not been able to stop anybody on the ground. David Johnson, you were a first-round pick. You were a top 5 pick this season. Damn, please have that 30-point game this week. Please do it. Number 7, we have Joe Mixon playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. Another defense that really can't stop anybody, right? This last week against Sony Michel and James White give up a bunch of points. I think the Bengals are going to have a good week. They are going to be pretty competitive versus the Chiefs, and they're going to have to get after it. They're going to have to keep up with Patrick Mahomes scoring because the Bengals defense isn't that great. So Joe Mixon in the passing game is going to be great. I think in a half-point PPR format, this is the way I've ranked them. I think he'll be relevant enough to be a top 7 running back. A guy who prior to the season, he was a second-round pick consistently. I don't remember anybody ever taking him, maybe even a third-round pick in specific leagues. I don't remember this guy going anywhere near the first round, yet he's become one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL on a consistent basis, so good on him. Number 8, we have Sony Michel playing against the Bears this week. Now, what happened to the Bears this past week? Well, Frank Gore had 100 rushing yards. Kenyon Drake somehow looked relevant. And going forward, I think Sony Michel, James White, they're going to have pretty good weeks. Yes, the Bears haven't given up a lot of points to the running back position thus far. But, if the Dolphins can find a weakness, and Frank Gore, who's like 1,000 years old, can run 100 yards on you, why can't Sony Michel do that? That's why I have him at number 8. Number 9, we have Christian McCaffrey playing against the Eagles this week. Again, as I mentioned last week with Saquon, the Eagles struggle against the running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Therefore, McCaffrey, fire him up, baby. He's my number 9 this week. Number 10, we have Alvin Kamara. Wow, we almost forgot about Alvin Kamara, right? Everyone was like, yeah, everything makes sense. Yep. And then, Alvin Kamara, number 10. Playing against the Ravens, a defense that is particularly good at stopping the run. I still don't think it's going to be that big of a difference whether they're playing, the Denver Broncos or they play the Ravens because of Mark Ingram taking carries here and there. I think Kamara, with the snaps and the attempts that he's going to be given, is going to be relevant. He's my number 10 this week. Guys, do not be afraid of starting Alvin Kamara. I know many of you after that last performance 2 weeks ago were like, should I get off the train now? Do I trade him? Guys, relax. He'll be fine. He's my number 10 this week. Number 11. Goodness, here we go. Matt Breida. Please, for the love of God, Matt Breida, just don't be hurt this week. Okay. They play against the Rams. Now, this might be a selection that you might be questioning. You'd be like, Matt Breida into a Rams game? Yes, people, Matt Breida into the Rams. I think there is an opportunity for this offensive line and Matt Breida to get after it. This 49ers team is not bad offensively. We saw that last night. C.J. Beathard is able to move the ball. He's not just a bum at quarterback. He's a decent quarterback in a Kyle Shanahan offense who's going to move the ball. Going forward, I mean, I understand he threw some bombs to Marquise Goodwin, but I still think the running game is going to be able to move because that's how Kyle Shanahan offenses are dictated. They start with the run, they spice you up a little bit, and then they kill you in the passing game. But as of right now, I think Matt Breida going forward maybe this is a little too high, but I just have a feeling. So that's why he's at number 11. Number 12, we have James White. He's going to continue to catch balls out of the backfield. He's going to continue to have the most receptions on this team and be the number one wide receiver. Why not? They used him a lot in the running game this past week. Now, I mentioned that. I even told you guys last week, don't be surprised when they bring in James White and they run the ball because, you know, when teams tee off on you and they think, oh, here comes the pass, and then it's a draw play, you got to get into their head, right? Either way, he's my number 12 this week going forward, even against the Bears defense. I'm telling you, if the Bears defense can be exploited, the Patriots are going to be the offense to dice him up even more. I mean, if Osweiler can figure it out, then I'm sure these guys can. That's why James White is my number 12. Number 13, we have Tevin Coleman. With the absence of Devonta Freeman, there's got to be an Atlanta running back to figure this out, right? They play against the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. I think he has a really good opportunity. Please, Tevin Coleman, figure it out, man. You've been a bum the last couple of weeks. I understand you can find the end zone into the passing game, but the Tevin Coleman of last season, even the year before, was way better than the one we're experiencing now because he's not being able to play off of a running back like Devonta Freeman who will take the first couple downs of snaps and then he'll come in for that change of pace. He's being forced to play every down, and then the goal lines get poached. Either way, I think he's my number 13 this week against the Giants because it's such a juicy matchup. Number 14, we have TJ Yeldon playing against the Texans this week. A guy who really didn't show up last week, but honestly, that entire offense didn't show up, so not really surprised. TJ Yeldon, going forward, I still think with the absence of Leonard Fournette, is a good running back. Overall, he's just a better running back in the passing game. So even when Fournette comes back, guys, he's not a guy that you're going to completely drop because you never know about Fournette's injuries. But either way, this coming week against the Texans, a defense that, honestly, they were able to get LeSean McCoy had about 90 total yards. If LeSean McCoy and the Bills can figure it out, I'm sure Blake Bortles' bum ass is going to figure this out and fix himself so where they can actually put some points on the board. Honestly, this past week's game for the Jaguars was all dictated on that defense because the Dallas Cowboys are going to run the ball on you. They're going to kill clock. And then after you have nothing to do, Bortles will throw picks because he's trying to force plays. But either way, Yeldon this week is my number 14. Number 15, we have Adrian Peterson playing against the Cowboys. A defense, they're tough up front. Okay, even without Sean Lee, they're going to figure it out. They're going to be good. But I still think Adrian Peterson this week at home going to find himself some success. Hopefully this game rains so that the running game continues to pile on. That's what I like to see. But either way, he's my number 15, especially with the continued absence of Chris Thompson. If he is out again, that even helps Adrian Peterson that much more. Number 16, my first start of the week, we have Tarik Cohen. As I mentioned before, he has been absolutely dynamic. He's been dynamite the last couple weeks. He pops off for, 19 plus fantasy points in the last 2 weeks. If he finds the end zone, it's gravy. If he doesn't, he is still going to be a part of this offense because he's getting, almost 12, 13 plus touches a game. So going forward, especially in this week against the Patriots, juicy matchup, I like Tarik Cohen. Number 17, as I mentioned before, Corey Clement. Do not sleep on Smallwood. He could be a potential start as well because of his usage. The Philadelphia Eagles ran the ball 30 times last week, right? So if you're going to continue to run the ball, and this offense, they were able to run the ball on Let me redact that statement. They were able to run the ball because they wanted to kill the clock. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball as efficiently or as effectively against the Panthers defense, so they might be opting to pass the ball more. That is why I have Corey Clement at 17, because he's the receiving back for this team. Yes, they're going to be able to spread the ball to Jeffrey, Aguilar, and Ertz, but Clement, I think, at number 17 is a pretty good spot for him. Number 18, we have Mark Ingram. As I mentioned before, I think Kamara is going to be good, but I have him a little bit lower than he would have usually been, right? If he was the solo back, he would have probably been the number 4, and I would have dropped Kareem Hunt down and subsequently everybody else. But because of the Mark Ingram presence, I don't see him having completely the entire reign and opportunity, obviously, especially on the goal line. A thing that is, in the 2 games in half-point PPR that Alvin Kamara scored 38.6 points. Yeah, there's 2 games where he scored 38.6 points. In the 2 games, he had, I think, 3 touchdowns in one of them, and then he had some monster stats in the other. Either way, I don't see those kind of games happening for him going forward. You're not going to really see him dropping 30 anytime soon. So, and that's just all dictated on Mark Ingram's presence, because he's going to take carries. He's going to be effective in the passing game as well. He's not a guy that's only going to run the ball. So, anyway, Mark Ingram's my number 18. Let's move on to the last couple players I want to talk. The last 18 players I wanted to mention for this video. The Week 7 running back rankings. We have number 19, we have Carlos Hyde. I mentioned Duke Johnson is going to be relevant this week because of the fact that, they're going to have to keep up against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. I mentioned that yesterday on my waiver wire video. But Carlos Hyde, man, you got to pick it up, buddy. You've been pretty trash as of late. The last couple weeks, you've been pretty disappointing to say the least. I think going forward, who do they play this week? They play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a defense that's not great. A defense that honestly has found their first scapegoat. They fired their defensive coordinator earlier today. So I think there is a possibility that the running game starts to pick up. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have given up, the 8th most fantasy points to the running back position. They're a team that's going to give up points. But Carlos Hyde, he hasn't been great in the last 2 weeks. He's only, combined for 11 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks. So they're going to have to struggle a little bit, but I think they'll find their way. It's a really good matchup for the Browns. Therefore, hopefully the passing game of Baker Mayfield can open up a little bit for Carlos Hyde. That's why I have him at number 19 this week, rather than a little bit higher that he's usually been in the last couple weeks. But just got to wait and see. Number 20, we have Dalvin Cook or Latavius Murray again for the second week in a row. It's an if or if and or, but it doesn't matter. As of right now, Dalvin Cook, Latavius Murray, whoever is the running back for this team, is my number 20. Now, I'm assuming it's going to be Latavius Murray for another week, but you never know. Either way, they play against the Jets this week. The Minnesota Vikings play the Jets. It's a pretty juicy matchup again. A lot of teams have very good matchups this coming week that are really advantageous fantasy-wise. It's all come together. So whether it's Latavius Murray, Dalvin Cook, if both of them end up playing, it's not good. It's not good for either of them, because then they'll end up both being 8-point running backs, and it's going to be a mess. So hopefully Dalvin Cook is 100% and ready to go so he can fully take over this backfield and fully show everybody what he's made of. My number 21, my other start of the week, we have LeSean McCoy. Guys, I'm telling you, it's a pretty easy matchup. Again, another advantageous matchup for the running back position here. We have LeSean McCoy playing against the Colts, a defense that's really not great. I think Nathan Peterman is going to be able to be, he'll throw a couple pick sixes. I'm not, discounting that. But as of right now, LeSean McCoy is the only option in that offense to be effective in the last couple weeks. They're going to run the offense through him. Therefore, I have him at number 21. I'm about to sneeze. Have you ever had that where you just have to sneeze and it just, All right. It's not happening, but eventually will. Number 22, we have Phillip Lindsay, my other start of the week. They're really close, guys. These guys are a couple points between each other when it comes to rankings. I don't see them that far apart. Therefore, they're right next to each other. We have Phillip Lindsay, number 22, as I mentioned before, has another really good matchup, guys. They play against the Cardinals, who have given up a boatload of points on the ground. Again, they just gave up Latavius Murray 155 rushing yards, guys. I think if and when Phillip Lindsay is given the entire backfield, because he's going to. Royce Freeman, Devontae Booker, they come in a couple times here and there, but they're not efficient enough to get the ball. That's why Phillip Lindsay stays in the game. He stays in the game with the passing game. He's been efficient all season long. He's been the best running back on this team. Therefore, going forward, he's my number 22 for this week. Number 23, we have Jordan Howard. Wow. How the mighty have fallen. Jordan Howard, this last couple weeks, just not great at all. The first couple weeks of the season, this guy is a second-round pick from many of your drafts. He's a guy that, honestly, he should have been way better than he is right now. But he's not great. In the first couple weeks, what is that? 13 points, 8 points, 15 points. Then he hit us with a 2-point week, went on a bye week, came back with a 5-point week. Okay, so let's just put it this way. He did have a touchdown that was called back. That is a 6-point swing. He would have ended up with 12 fantasy points. Okay, understandable. But the thing is, if you're still only scoring 12 fantasy points and you're a running back that we really need to end up having 20 fantasy points, there's an issue, and it's Tarik Cohen. That is why I have him way lower ranked. I think he'll be efficient, but I don't think he's going to be, the clear-cut number one for this team going forward. So, do with it as you may, but he's my number 23. Number 24, Alex Collins, a guy that is the clear-cut running back, continues to get the goal line work, which is exactly what we want. We want the guy to have the goal line work. Why? Because Javorius Allen in the first couple weeks kept, vulturing everything and taking value away from Alex Collins going forward, especially against the Saints. I don't think the Saints defense is that great. I know they've improved in the last couple weeks, but I don't know how great they are, especially against a team that prides themselves on their running, having 4 tight ends to block. I think they'll be fine this week. That's why Alex Collins is number 24. Number 25, a guy that's coming off the bye week, Kerryon Johnson, a name that we haven't heard in a little while. Hopefully, okay, a lot of Kerryon Johnson's fantasy points are contingent on whether or not LeGarrette Blount comes in the game and steals the touchdown. It's really what it is. But going forward, he's going to continue to get an accelerated role within this offense, playing against the Miami Dolphins, a team that just got torched in the passing game by good old Tarik Cohen. So I think, yes, Theo Riddick could be decent, but I do like Kerryon Johnson this coming week a lot. He's my number 25. I think he's going to be very good going forward. Hopefully they just cut Amir Abdullah, cut Theo Riddick, and cut LeGarrette Blount, and just give this man all the carries, please. As a Kerryon Johnson owner, please. Anyway, number 26, we have Marlon Mack. Okay, so as you see Nyheim Hines a little bit lower, but I think Marlon Mack this week, he's going to have majority of the touches on the ground. Nyheim Hines, if the game gets out of hand to the point where the Colts need to, charge a comeback, Nyheim Hines will get majority of the carries. But to start out, it's going to be Marlon Mack. He's the starter of this team. He had a pretty good performance this past week on the ground, 89 yards rushing. Going forward, if he can find that end zone, he can be a number 2 running back or an RB2. But as of right now, I'm going to put him at the RB3 range. He's a flex for this coming week. He's my number 26. Number 27, Wendell Smallwood, has the same kind of deal, right? He's going to get a lot of touches. Whether he ends up producing with those touches and finding the end zone is the entire thing, right? That's the entire question mark. So we're sitting here thinking, is he going to be able to produce against a Panthers front seven that has been pretty consistent this year? I don't think he's going to be fantastic, but I think he's going to be relevant enough to perhaps, if you have a flex spot open, an RB3 spot open, many of you don't run with 3 RBs, it would be your flex that you throw him into. If he's your best option, I wouldn't mind him this coming week. Number 28, we have Payton Barber, a guy that has been god-awful until last week. But then again, I looked into it. With Jameis Winston, Payton Barber last year was a pretty good running back. He was the clear-cut number 1. This past week, when it comes to touches and snap counts, he was the clear-cut number 1. God, I wish Ronald Jones figured it out, but as of right now, it's going to be Payton Barber. They play against the Browns, who got torched by Melvin Gordon yesterday. 2 days ago on Sunday. So as of right now, Payton Barber, my number 28. Number 29, we have Lamar Miller. He should be fine. Lamar Miller's an 8 to 10 point fantasy guy, period. Especially against Jacksonville this week. Jacksonville's pretty upset, people. Just be careful if you start your Texans. Number 30, Nyheim Hines. He's going to be relevant in the passing game. He outsnapped and he outsnapped Marlon Mack for majority of that game. So I don't think he's completely being taken out of this offense. He's just getting less and less touches, which could hurt him, but depends on the game script going forward. I think he'll still be decent. He's an Austin Eckler kind of guy. He's a Bilal Powell kind of guy. He's a running back that you can play, even though they're not the starter, but they're PPR relevant. That's why he's my number 30. Number 31, we have Frank Gore. I mean, you're coming off that performance of 100 yards, Frank Gore. You're 100 years old. You're absolutely ridiculous. You're playing against... who did the Dolphins play this week? Goodness. How have I forgotten that? Damn it. Who did the Dolphins play? They play against the Detroit Lions, another team that sucks at stopping the run. This is beautiful. They've given up the 4th most fantasy points to the running back position. All right, Frank Gore, get after, baby. It's your time, right? Your time to shine. Get after Frank Gore. I think you'll be fine this coming week. So go ahead and start him at a running back 3 spot. But number 32, we have Dion Lewis. Man, I don't trust Titans, but they play against the Chargers. Chargers defense isn't that great. Hopefully Mariota can at least dump the ball down. They got sacked 11 times this past Sunday, right? You know how to stop that? If you don't want to get sacked, you either have to run the ball, Mariota, use your damn legs, or you have to find a running back, as a check down. Somebody you can throw the ball to and at least get the ball out of your hands so you don't get minus yards. Dion Lewis hopefully is going to get more implemented with this offense. That's why he's my number 32. Number 33, as I mentioned before, we have the Powell and Crowell. No, we have the Bilal Powell and Isaiah Crowell combo. I don't know who's going to pop off, but I do not trust Isaiah Crowell going forward. So if you're going to trust somebody against the Minnesota Vikings, especially because Kirk Cousins is in a pretty good matchup, they're going to have to play from behind. Therefore, the passing game is going to be extremely vital for the Jets. I would probably lean towards Bilal Powell this coming week. He's my number 33. Goodness, guys, I did it. Kenyon Drake's on the list. He has a very good matchup. Does this mean you have to start him? Absolutely not. I still don't trust him to a point. But he's my number 34 this week. Why? He got a lot of touches. He's still being out carried by Frank Gore, right? That's fine. But perhaps he could find himself some points this week. It's a possibility. This past week, he had 7.8 fantasy points in half-point PPR, and he fumbled the ball. So he would have had about, 10 points in fantasy had he not fumbled that ball. He was relevant against the defense, had given up the least amount of points to the running back position. So you never know. He's my number 34. Number 35, Austin Eckler. As I mentioned, a guy that is relevant in PPR. Has a pretty decent matchup, I guess, against the Tennessee Titans that, I don't know. We'll just see. Either way, Austin Eckler's production is very contingent on whether or not he's using the passing game. This past week, they didn't really have to use him because why? Melvin Gordon was just having a time of his life. Tyrell Williams was catching the ball over everybody's heads. And the clock just kept draining, and he doesn't need to be used in those specific scenarios. So this coming week, he could have a good opportunity, but he's a very deep flex as of right now. So that's why he's my 35. My last guy I want to talk about before I close this out, Duke Johnson this week. Keep your eyes on him. They play against the Buccaneers this week, as I mentioned yesterday in my waiver wire videos. I think a waiver wire video, not videos. Hello. Duke Johnson this coming week could be fantasy relevant. I think he's going to be. This past week, he wasn't bad, people. He had pretty good production in the passing game as well. Let me go ahead and find this for me, please. Thank you. There it is. Good old Duke Johnson. All right, so he had 12.9 fantasy points and half-point PPR scoring, in which literally 9 of those points came from the passing game, right? He's getting more and more production. He's not going to run the ball. You're not going to see this guy like James White get, 7 carries. He's not Tarik Cohen. He is a budget Tarik Cohen / James White. That's what he is. That's literally what he is. He's a third down budget back that could be decent and could be terrible all the same. But it just depends on how the defense plays them. I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers has a pretty okay front seven they're not complete pushovers. They have, Levante David. They have Gerald McCoy. They're not terrible up front, right? Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea they just drafted. They're not terrible. So hopefully they can stop Carlos Hyde so that Duke Johnson owners can figure it out. But either way, we'll see. Really quickly before I end this out, I just want to talk about Le'Veon Bell. If you do own Le'Veon Bell, he was set to be coming in this week, week 7. Don't hold your breath, guys. Honestly, Le'Veon Bell might not play football this year. There's a good opportunity that he doesn't. And even when he comes back, there's a good opportunity, more like a for sure thing, that he's not going to be able to get the full workload. So if you don't own James Conner and you're a Le'Veon Bell owner, good luck. It's going to be rough. He could walk in tomorrow morning. I am just, you never know. But as of right now, just be careful with it. It's nothing that we want to hold our breath on and expect to happen in the near future. There's a chance that he just never shows up. So just anticipate that, expect the worst, and we'll move from there. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. Appreciate all the support. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, please go down below and ask. Guys, really quickly, answering questions for Thursday is going to be really difficult. I haven't even gotten to today's questions. Came home from work, had something to eat, back to, right away, fixing this video to make it. Answering questions for Thursday is going to be tight. I probably won't get to your question. Do not expect it. Ask other people. They will help you out. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, I'll see you guys.